All right, welcome to another Cold Email University video. Today I'm going to show you how to target the right prospects for cold email. I'm going to run you through the exact formula and the exact framework that you can use in order to identify your ICP and also find your highest value customers. Now, for some context, my name is Alex. I'm the founder at SparkLead, a B2B lead generation agency. I've sent over 5 million cold emails, booked over 1,000 sales calls, and generated 1.2 million in revenue for my clients just using cold email. Couple of results that we've got on our clients. We helped a B2B SaaS company at 150,000 in new revenue within 30 days. We helped a marketing agency at 30,000 in new monthly recurring revenue within 3 months. And we also helped an AI agency at 63,000 in new monthly recurring revenue within 4 months. And all these results were through cold email. And for every single one of these clients, we used the same ICP framework that I'm about to show you in this video. Now, if you've watched some of the previous videos in this series, Cold Email University, then once again, you probably recognize this kind of roadmap and journey right here. So this is your cold email journey and roadmap. And I've already created videos showing you how to set up the cold email infrastructure, how to purchase custom domains, how to set up your email accounts, how to sign up for SmartLead, which is going to be your sending tool, and how to connect your email accounts to SmartLead. So as the infrastructure is warming up now, the next step and the next chapter that we're moving into right now is targeting. And the first part of targeting is how to clearly define your ICP. And that's exactly what I'm about to show you how to do in this video. And then once you define your ICP, the next thing you can do is actually build the lead list in Apollo, which is going to be the next video that I'm going to create. So if you haven't actually watched any of the other videos in this series, you can go into my channel under playlists and under Cold Email University. You can find videos explaining all of these things that have to do with the cold email infrastructure. And now we're moving into targeting. Now that essentially you've powered through all the boring stuff, which is the infrastructure, it's time to get into one of the most important topics of cold email, and that is defining your ideal client profile. If you don't do this properly, it could potentially affect the success of your entire campaign. And to create an effective cold email strategy, you need to have a crystal clear understanding and a crystal clear picture of your ideal client profile. In other words, your ICP. If you can start off your cold email journey with a single, extremely well-defined ICP, I can guarantee that it's going to substantially boost the results that you're going to see instantly. And then likewise, if you start your cold email journey without a crystal clear understanding of who your ICP is, and you're not entirely sure as to who you should be targeting, who are your highest value prospects, and you just start building a bunch of random lead lists that don't actually have a strategy behind them, then you're not going to see any results. Now, what is an ideal client profile? An ideal client profile, in other words, an ICP, is the perfect company as well as the perfect person at that company who would be the decision maker for your products or your services. In other words, it's a description of the perfect company or customer that you want to target for your business. An ICP is not the same thing as a target customer or a target market. Okay, a target customer, which is often used to describe any company that might buy a product or service. Your ICP is focused on the most valuable customers and prospects that are also most likely to buy. And essentially, an ICP includes a wide range of attributes that are common to your perfect client. Now, when defining your ICP, you need to consider the following company and people filtering mechanisms. In other words, when you think of your ICP, you should think about it on two levels, on a company level and on a people level. You want to find the exact companies that you should be targeting, and then the exact people within those companies that would be decision makers for the kind of product or service that you offer. Now, when it comes to the company, you can think of the locations. Where are these companies located? What is the company size, which can be split into two? It's the employee count, but also the estimated annual revenue, the industry, the sub-industry, the keywords that they might have on their website or their social media, technologies that they use, Shopify, HubSpot, Notion, whatever kind of technologies they use, funding history. So have they recently raised any funds, and job postings on LinkedIn? So are they actually hiring for any certain positions that are relevant to the kind of product or service that you offer? Now, in terms of the people, you want to know where the people are located. So are they located at the same place where the headquarters of the company are? Are they located somewhere else for whatever reason? What are the job titles of those people? And when it comes to job titles, you can also think about this in two different levels. So you have the department and you also have the management level. So when it comes to the department, are they in the department of finance, the department of marketing, the department of operations? And then management level, are they a VP, a director, a manager, a C-level executive? So these are the two ways you can think about job titles. And the more detailed your understanding is of what you're looking for in these areas, the more targeted your lead list is going to be. So how do you actually clearly define your ICP? So in order to define your ICP, you have to go out and do market research. There's no other way that you can identify who your ICP is if you don't do any market research. Without doing this, your strategy is going to be a guessing game, and it's not going to be sustainable, and you're not going to get consistent long-term results. So a couple of key questions that you can start answering are: what industry are my ideal clients in? Where are they located? What is their company size? What technologies are they using that my product or service could enhance or replace? Are they hiring for positions related to my offer? And who are the key decision makers? Now, it's worth noting that if you're just getting started with cold email, then you might not have a perfect idea of your ICP from the get-go. And running cold email campaigns is actually the best way to get clearer on this. So the more scripts you write, the more campaigns you launch, and the more responses you receive, and the more feedback you get from the market, the more accurately you're going to be able to identify your ICP. So in terms of your ICP, before we move on to the next section, which is going to be even more detailed, this is your ICP homework. I just want you to write down on a piece of paper or on your laptop these 10 questions. Who exactly is your ideal client? So write down everything you know about these companies and the decision makers. What are 5 to 10 companies you'd consider to be your ideal clients? What are the locations of these companies and the decision makers? What is the average headcount of these companies? What is the estimated annual revenue of these companies? What industries are these companies in? What are some commonly used keywords that they might have on their website? For example, if you're targeting e-com brands, then they might have the words shop now, add to cart, what's new, bestsellers, sale, etc., etc. What tools? Another question is: what tools are your ideal clients using? Have these companies recently been funded? Are these companies hiring? If yes, for what roles? Now, don't make the mistake of just thinking about the answers to these questions, because when you're thinking about the answers to these questions, you're not actually going to be answering the questions in the detail that you need to if you're going to then go ahead and build a targeted lead list. So if you actually want to do this using the exact framework that I'm showing you, pause the video here, write down these 10 questions, and start answering these questions before you move on to the next part of the video. The next part is a niche identification, so who to target and why. So now that you know your ICP, okay, now that you know what the answers are to those 10 questions, we're going to take it one step further. So out of all the companies and all the people within your ICP that you just wrote down, how can you decide who to target first? Who does it make sense to contact first and why? So this has to do with your campaign strategy, because a big mistake that most people make is that they launch a campaign without actually thinking about the strategy behind the campaign. They build a lead list of marketing firms or accounting firms because they think that those accounting firms are going to be a good fit. But in reality, there's no actual reason as to why those accounting firms should choose you. There's no reason, there's nothing that makes you the preferred option for your target market. So what I'm about to show you now is going to give you an extreme advantage, an edge over your competition in the market that you're going to be contacting them. And I'm going to show you how to find those markets where you actually have an edge over your competition. Now, the way I like to think about this is by splitting it into two factors. We have needs and we have high intent factors. So the first thing we're going to start off with is needs. So in other words, who do they need to be and what do they need to have in order to be a good fit? So I'm just going to take an example of marketing firms. So let's say you answered the above 10 questions and the industry that you're targeting is marketing firms. Okay. So what do those marketing firms need to have or need to be doing, or what needs to be current in their situation that makes them a good fit? Okay, so I'm going to talk about this from a cold email perspective because I run a cold email agency, and then you can apply this to your situation as well. So in my case, I need companies that are B2B. So I cannot physically work. My agency does not physically provide services to B2C companies. So we only send cold emails on behalf of B2B companies. The next thing that we want is a headcount of at least 10. So we've typically seen that if they don't have at least 10 employees, then they're typically not going to be a good fit for the kind of services and the kind of investment that we charge our clients. So the next thing we need is English speaking. So we need these companies to be English speaking. We need the people within the companies to be English speaking because we are English speaking. So even though, let's say, we want to work with marketing firms, if we work with a marketing firm that cannot communicate in English, then once again, they are not going to be a good fit. Or if they're reaching out to prospects and they're targeting markets that are not English speaking, the cold email scripts we're going to write for them are also not going to be a good fit. So this is also a need. So now we're essentially eliminating all countries that are not English speaking and all companies within those countries that are not B2B and not English speaking. The next thing we need is an industry where decision makers are accessible. So there are certain industries where it's very difficult to access the decision makers. There's lots of gatekeepers. And then once again, that would hinder the results that we would see through cold email. Now, the next one is a big enough, tangible, addressable market. So if our clients don't have an addressable market of at least 10 to 15,000 prospects, then we typically don't provide our services to those companies. So for example, if we work with a local business that can only supply and can only offer their services to the local neighborhood of 1,000 people or 500 people, they're probably not going to be a good fit for our cold email services. So they need to have a big enough, tangible, addressable market. And the next one, they need to be high ticket with a high lifetime value. So if the lifetime value of their customers is not at least 15,000, then typically it won't make sense for them to work with us. But if every deal that we can help them close is worth at least 15,000 in terms of lifetime value, then it could be a good fit. So these are a couple of needs that these companies need to have in order for them to be a good fit. So even if our ICPs, marketing firms, or SaaS companies, if it's not B2B, and if they don't have at least 10 employees and they're not English speaking, and if we can't access the decision makers, and if they don't have a big enough tangible addressable market, and if they don't have a high lifetime value of at least 15,000, then we would typically disqualify those prospects and we wouldn't provide our services to them. So now what you need to do is you need to think of the non-negotiables and the needs that your potential clients need to have in order for you to physically be able to provide your services. I'm not talking about your preferences or who you would prefer to work with. I'm saying the things that are non-negotiable, that if a company doesn't have those things, you physically can't provide your services. So that's the next thing that you need to do. Now, once we filter it down to the companies that do meet this criteria, the next thing we need to do is figure out the high intent factors. So out of those companies that meet our non-negotiables, which are most likely to work with us? And this is where you get the edge over your competition, because most people are going to figure out their ICP, they're going to figure out what those companies need to have, and they're going to start reaching out to everyone with no strategy. The strategy is figuring out those high intent factors in those markets where you have an edge. So there's 8 ways where you can have an edge over your competition, where you can reach out to markets that make you the better choice and the more obvious choice over your competition. So the first factor is lookalike customers. So companies that you've worked with before, meaning that if you are a cold email agency and you have experience working with marketing firms, or if you have experience working with B2B SaaS companies and you have case studies of B2B SaaS companies that you've already helped, then it makes sense for you to reach out to other B2B SaaS companies, because now when you reach out to them, you can actually mention that you've already worked with a company that looks exactly like them and you've helped them generate really good results. So now you already have an advantage over all the other cold email agencies that are also targeting B2B SaaS companies, but they don't have any case studies, they don't have any experience in that industry. Now, the second factor is geography. People like to work with other people that are also based in the same location as them. So if you're based in London, if you're based in the UK, running a local campaign of companies that are also based in that location is going to give you a massive edge over your competition. So if you run a cold email agency, you want to work with B2B SaaS companies, find people that run B2B SaaS companies that are also based in London. And now when you write your script to those people and you reach out to those people, you can also say that we can have a quick chat over a coffee at the local coffee shop. And that is also going to give you an edge over your competition, because if you're reaching out to that person who's based in London and they're in the neighborhood next door to you, and you're also competing with another cold email agency who's reaching out from the US, then once again, that's going to give you a bit of an edge, because people like to work with other people that are in the same location as them. Now, the third factor is personal experience. So do you have a degree in accounting? If you have a degree in accounting, reach out to accounting firms and tell them that you understand their language, you understand their world, you already have a degree in accounting. Maybe you've also worked in the accounting industry, or you've worked in whatever industry. So reach out to the companies that you already have experience in their industry. Now, this is different to factor 1. Factor 1 is reaching out to companies that you've already worked with before. Factor 3 is personal experience. So if you actually have a degree in something, in a certain field, or if you've worked as an employee in a certain field, so it means that you have a better understanding of that market and of their business more than your competition. Now, the fourth factor is social media engagement. So let's say your ICP is marketing firms. Do you have any marketing firms or founders of marketing firms that are engaging with your content on social media, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on YouTube? If you do, then reach out to those people. You have a much higher chance of converting people who have already engaged with your content, as opposed to reaching out to cold audiences. Now, the fifth factor is hiring. Are they hiring for a relevant position? So if you offer cold email services, are those people hiring for a business development manager? Are they hiring for an SDR? Are they hiring for a go-to-market engineer? Are they hiring for a certain position in-house that you can actually replace with the services that you offer? And once again, you might not be running a cold email agency. Whatever kind of company you run or service you offer, try and find relevant positions that your ICP is hiring for, and then reach out to those companies and actually tell them that I saw you're hiring for XYZ position. We actually do the same thing. So now you know that they're already looking for the thing that you offer. Now, the sixth factor is website visitors. So once again, whatever your ICP is, track your website visitors. And if you have any of those people that are visiting your website, then just reach out to those people and basically try and get a call booked. Now, the seventh factor is technographics. So are they using a relevant tool? So for example, we use Smart Lead to launch cold email campaigns. So if any of my ICP is already using Smart Lead, it indicates to me that they're already running cold email campaigns. So likewise, try and figure out what tools and what tech stack your ICP might have that you already use in your service. So if they're also using it, it indicates that they're doing something that is relevant to the thing that you offer. Now, the eighth and final high intent factor is groups, trade shows, and events. So if you physically attended some sort of a conference or a trade show and you are able to get a list of all the people that also attended that trade show or that event, then you reaching out to those people and saying, hey, I also went to this event. Are you interested in XYZ? So try and associate your offer to the fact that they also attended that event that you were also at. And by using these 8 high intent filters, it's going to give you a massive advantage over your competition, because here you have industry experience, you have personal experience, you're located in the same place as your ICP. Your ICP is engaging with your social media content, they're hiring for something relevant to what you do, they're visiting your website, they're using a certain tool that you also use, they attended the same trade show or conference that you were also at. So as you can see, these are 8 super high intent factors that if you can take advantage of, it's going to give you a massive edge over your competition. Now, the reason why the first 3 factors are in bold is because these are the 3 you're probably going to be using the most. So if you have case studies, or if you have personal experience, or if you're just running a local campaign, these are the easiest high intent factors that you can leverage and take advantage of. Now, if you're able to also leverage some of these 5, then that's also going to be really good. But I would recommend starting off with these 3. So you now know how to identify your ICP, those 10 questions that you need to ask yourself in order to identify your ICP. Once you do that, figure out the non-negotiables that your ICP needs to have in order for them to be a good fit. And then the last part is figuring out your high intent factors. So out of those companies, which are most likely to work with you. And I can guarantee that if you follow the exact framework that I showed you in this video, you are going to substantially improve the results that you're seeing with cold email. So I hope this was helpful. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to actually put this ICP framework into action. I'm going to show you how to build a lead list in Apollo using all the information that I provided in this video. So make sure you stay tuned for that video that is also coming out next week. And if you have any questions regarding this ICP framework, then just leave them in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.